Okay, so I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different. I'm gonna be talking about books today instead of crocheting. So let me know if y'all like this and would like some more book content, or if I should stick to crochet and move books to a different account, because I'm very much against how YouTube has now become where you have to have a niche in order to have a following, because I would like to do books and crocheting and all of the things without having to do it on a separate account where I have to monitor both. So yeah. Anyway, so I have a lovely little list of all of my TBR, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. And just to preface, some of my TBRs are books that you would typically see a 12-year-old read, and I'm 17. First off, I don't care. I read what I choose to read. And if you want to read Cat in the Hat and you're 30 years old, who cares? Go ahead and do it, because it doesn't matter what people think, actually. So yeah, I'm going to say some things that it's like, that's a child's book, that's literally teenagers. Because to be honest, I don't really like the older book fantasy novels where it's like young adult, but it's not young adult, it's adult, if you know what I mean. No, that is not my jam. That is not my jelly, that is not my butter, that is none of my things. So yeah, I'm definitely on more of like the young adult side when I prefer reading. There are some that I will like want to read because they're like 21-year-old characters, all like that. But yeah, anyway, so first up we have the Harry Potter series. Yeah, I haven't read it. I read to book 4, Goblet of Fire, and it was doing all like the Voldemort info, and I was like, oh, so then I never read it. And then we have 13th Reality, which is a book. It follows a 13-year-old boy. Again, like how I said, I prefer books with like younger adult books where it's like teen books. They never label them as teen, they always label them as young adult. That's not young adult, that's teen. Label it as a teen book, but whatever, because young adult is a whole too broad of a that's a different topic. I'll talk about that later. Yeah, I'm just reading the like what Google says. So the 13th Reality is a young adult science fiction book series by American writer James Dasher. The first book in the series was published in early 2008. Yeah. And the summary of the first book is, in the Journal of Curious Letters, Atticus Higginbottom, aka Tick, he's the main character, is an average 13-year-old boy until the day he receives a strange letter informing him that a dangerous, perhaps even deadly event has been set in motion that could result in the destruction of reality itself. That seems interesting, so I'm gonna read it. And then I have like a whole little, this is my TBRs in my notes app. I have a whole little section of my TBR dedicated to Rick Riordan / Percy Jackson books, because he is one of my favorite authors. So I have a whole list, and it is in order. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the ones I haven't read of it. The Singer of Apollo, which is a short story. I really don't know what it's about, but yeah, it's a short story that goes in between the short story Demigod Files and Heroes of Olympus. It's like that little middle ground between the first main series and the second main series. Then we have the Demigod Diaries, which is another set of short stories, I think. And it's between Heroes of Olympus and Kane Chronicles. And then we have 9 from the 9 Worlds, which is again short stories, and that comes after Demigods and Magicians, which is a short story following Kane Chronicles. And then Magnus Chase, I think that might be not in the right order, I'm not sure, but Magnus Chase is about Norse mythology. All of the book series follow different mythologies when it comes to Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series. And then we have Trials of Apollo, which follows Apollo after he's been banished from Olympus, and he has to like do a bunch of stuff, and he asks like Percy for help and everything because he knows him, like one of the only people he knows. So, and he's trying to earn his way back up to god status because he's been demoted to mortal right now by his dad. And then we have The Sun and the Star, which is a newer series, like almost brand spanking new. And it is, follows Nico D'Angelo and Will something, a kid of Apollo. And I want to read that so bad. I'm so excited to read that. But yeah, it's I don't know exactly what it's about, but it's them doing stuff. That's all I know. Also, I haven't read the 6th book to the Percy Jackson series that was just added, The Chalice of the Gods. I'm actively reading that right now, so that's another one. Then we have, that's the end of all my Rick Riordan stuff. Then we have The Darkest Minds, which was the first book was an it was made into a movie. The first book was made into a movie, and a lot of people saw it, got very popular. But it's about it says the book The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken follows the protagonist Ruby when the disease IAAN, I'm not going to try to read that, plagued the United States. Rarely any of the children survived. If they did survive, they developed superpowers. There are 5 levels of powers they can develop, and it doesn't go into it in the little summary I pulled up, but so our main character, she has one of the highest levels, and so usually when those people had those levels, they were either murdered or taken, so she acts like she's a lower level. So yeah, that's basically how that one goes, and it's 4 books. I got to book 2 of that, and I was going through like reading, what is it called? Reading block, so like I didn't finish it. So yeah. And I am drinking apple juice because it's bussin'. Anyway, then we have The Chronicles of Narnia, which is another one of the books that are kind of like kiddie books. I read The Chronicles of Narnia when I was a kid, around when I was seeing the movies. And I want to reread it because it seemed really interesting. So there are 7 books. I have like a mega book, which is like all of them put together. Oh, I need to sneeze. Okay. So yeah, I plan on reading that. The Chronicles of Narnia is, let's see if I have it pulled up, a series of 7 portal fantasy novels by British author C.S. Lewis, illustrated by Pauline Baynes, and originally published in 1950 and 1956. And it doesn't tell me about it. Oh, during World War II bombings of London, 4 English siblings. This one is about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is probably the most famous of the books and of the movies that came out alongside. But this is not where the first book of the series starts. This might be the first book that came out, and then there were prequels that came out later. I don't actually know the order when the books were published. All I know is the order that they are in chronologically. Anyway, so 4 English siblings are set to a country house where they will be safe. One day, Lucy finds a wardrobe that transports her to a magical world called Narnia. After coming back, she soon returns to Narnia with her brothers Peter and Edmund and her sister Susan. They join the magical lion Aslan in the fight against the evil white witch Jadis. So that is the basics of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is a book of Chronicles of Narnia. Up next, we have The Unwanteds, which again is a kids kind of book series, and I initially started reading this in middle school, but I never finished it. I got to book 4 and then stopped because we didn't own the rest of the books, or like in elementary school or something, I don't know. So I wanted to go back and read it and see what actually happens, because it bugs me when I don't finish book series. But yeah, currently I'm on book 5 of that. I've been reading it for a while now, so hopefully I get that finished. And then we have The Unwanted's Quest, which is a like subset series where it's like shorter books where it's just like little quest, as it implies. Then we have The Spiderwick Chronicles. Again, read what you want to read. The Spiderwick Chronicles is a bunch of short books that you would have a third grader read. I read it in third grade, but honestly, I want to reread it because I rewatched that movie as much as possible. I love that movie that it was made into, but the books are even better. So I'm just gonna reread the books because I don't care if it's supposed to be for children. I don't care. Technically, I'm still a minor, so anyway. Then we have Tunnels. No, we don't. I took that off my list. This is an old screenshot of my list. Then we have His Dark Materials, which is a trilogy of fantasy novels by Philip Pullman. It follows the coming of age of two children, Lyra Belacqua and Will Perry, as they wander through a series of parallel universes. So His Dark Materials was adapted, maybe, I don't know, into movies, or a movie, but then it's been made into a series now. I know because my mom and my brother watch it. But yeah, it follows mainly this little girl who has what's called a demon, which is like her little companion in a sense. It's like the companion is her like soul or something. I don't exactly know how it works, but yeah, it seems really interesting, so I have it there. After that, we have The Compound. I have read book 1 of The Compound. I just haven't read book 2, and I've also heard that book 2 kind of sucks. So I don't know if I want to read book 2, but I want to check it off my list. It follows these characters who are stuck in a bunker after a nuclear war. You should read it. And then we have The Folk of Air, which is a young adult fantasy book series by Holly Black. The story follows the journey of a mortal girl, Ju Duarte, and fairy prince Carden Greenbrier as they navigate the world of hate, betrayal, and contempt along with feelings for each other. Usually, I'm not a big fan of books with a overarching romance plot. I prefer a subtle romance plot that just follows along the main fanatical, whatever it is, plot. But this one does seem interesting. It's 4 books. It's The Cruel Prince, Lost Sisters, The Queen of Nothing, and How the King of Ethame Learned to Hate Stories. It's a weird name. But yeah. Seems interesting. I think that is on the older side of the young adult genre. Again, I have problems with the term young adult genre, and I'm making a video about that now. That's what I'm gonna make a video about it. Up next we have, where am I have a too long of a list. Then we have The Fountainhead, which is a thick novel by Ayn Rand. If you don't know who Ayn Rand is, she also made, I read it, what is it called? Oh my gosh, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, I'm just gonna read the thing of Ayn Rand, or her book, The Fountainhead. So The Fountainhead is a 1943 novel published by Russian-American author Ayn Rand, her first major literary success. The novel's protagonist, Howard Roark, is an intransigent young architect who battles against conventional standards and refuses to compromise with architectural establishments unwilling to accept innovation. All of her books are very much like dystopian type of book series. Let me find out what the name of her other book is that has slipped my brain. I also want to read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, although I've heard that one's kind of a difficult read. I still want to. Oh, Anthem. That's what it is. Anthem is a book that is, again, dystopian. It follows along a character who he like is stuck where he can't do what he wants to do, and like they all have numbers, they don't have names. I just pulled up the thing. It says it's what would happen if collectivism took over the world, which Ayn Rand was writing this book during a time where she was stuck in a communist area, and so this was her speaking out against communism. So she's slay. I love Ayn Rand, and I want to read as many of her books as I can in my lifetime, but they are very long. They are very long books. So, or Anthem isn't. If you are a short book girly and you've just looked up how long Fountainhead is this thick, Anthem is such a good book, and it is literally like this thin. So thin. It's like 100 and something. Anyway, up next we have Chaos Walking, which I'm pretty sure was I'm pretty sure it was made into a movie, but I don't know if it's about the books. I don't know. But Chaos Walking is a young adult science fiction series written by American-British novel Patrick Ness. It's set in a dystopian world where all living creatures can hear each other's thoughts in a stream of images, words, sounds, and sounds called noise. That seems mental. That seems interesting. I'm reading it. Simple put. So, it's 3 books. And it seems interesting. I probably should have looked up a better, like, synopsis on it, but I, in fact, did not. I just looked up Chaos Walking book and then screenshotted it. But, yeah. That's the next one. And then we have a book called Uglies, which is a book series that was recommended to me when I was like asking people, please give me book recommendations. It says Uglies is a 2005 science fiction novel written by Scott Westerfeld. It is set in the future post-scarcity dystopian world and where everyone is considered an ugly but then turned pretty by extreme cosmetic surgery when they reach the age of 16. I'm pretty sure the protagonist that we follow is a 16-year-old girl who is going through this process where she doesn't want to do cosmetic surgeries. I believe that's what is happening. This one is also deemed young adult literature. But yeah, I want to read it because it seems interesting, and honestly I feel like there's a lot of truth to it, and something that could definitely be a lesson learned in today's society. Sorry, I'm cold. I'm covering up with a blanket. So, yeah. And also, if you haven't already noticed, I'm a dystopian novel girly. I love dystopian novels. To whatever type of dystopian they are, I love them. Next, we have Edinburgh Nights, which is an ongoing series. So far there are 3 books and a 4th one is to be projected to be released this year. And it's the first book in the series, The Library of the Dead, is when a child goes missing in Edinburgh's darkest streets, young Ropa investigates. She'll need to call on Zimbabwean magic as well as her Scottish pragmatism to hunt down clues, but as shadows lengthen, will the hunter become the hunted? Ropa dropped out of school to become a ghost stalker. Don't know what a ghost stalker is. Don't know what pragmatism is. Don't know what Zimbabwean magic is. So I'm reading it. Yeah, it seems really interesting. I don't know what to say besides it seems interesting, but yeah. Oh, and here's the whole series, what it's about. So, this book is like Sixth Sense meets Stranger Things. In this sharp contemporary fantasy series, Edinburgh Nights, from acclaimed Scottish author T.L. Huchu, the Library of Dead introduces readers to Ropa, a precious and cynical teen who can talk to ghosts. Seems interesting. So there's that. And then we have Ender's Game, which is a kind of older set of novels. There was a movie released about it quite a few years ago starring Asa Butterfield, or Butterfeld, I don't know how you say his last name. But that movie inspired me to want to read the book. So it says, Ender's Game is a 1985 military science fiction novel by American author Orson Scott Card set in an unspecified day in Earth's future. The novel presents an imperiled humankind after 2 conflicts with an insectoid alien species they dubbed the Buggers. So if you've ever watched the movie, you know kind of what it's about. And basically, the rest of the book series follows Ender as he leaves Earth. And this is not just like the 5 books in the main series. There are so many different, cut off, like spin-offs and add-ons and stuff that I may get into eventually, but sometimes I don't think I can handle reading that many books in a lifetime. So yeah, it is a very big series if you want to start investing your time into reading it. But I only have the 5 main that I plan on reading. If it's interesting enough, I'll just go ahead and do the whole rest of the series, but that is a maybe. And then up next, I have the Mortal Coil, which it says, in this griping debut novel, 17-year-old Kat must use her gene hacking skills to decode her late father's message concealing a vaccine to a horrifying plague. Katerina Agata is a hacker. She can cripple mainframes and crash through firewalls, but that's not what makes her special. ... I maybe should have clicked on it and continued reading, but that's like the basics of it. So again, it seems, there's a vaccine, a horrifying plague. What's going on here? So I'm gonna read it. There are, I think, 3 books. There's 3 books to that. Okay. Up next, we have my Neal Shusterman book section. So, along with Rick Riordan, Neal Shusterman is my, top favorite author. He's, right there beside Rick Riordan. I think maybe a little bit he would be a little bit above if it weren't for the fact that I was such a fan of Rick Riordan since I was so young. So, yeah. Neal Shusterman, I've read many of his books, but here are the ones I haven't. So I've read all of the 4 main Unwind books, but I never read, he does this thing where if he has a series that gets popular and a universe that gets popular, he'll do a book that is like stories from it, where it's the characters in different settings, other characters that we didn't get a whole lot of information on, just a bunch of different stories about different people in that same universe. So I never read the Unwind stories. I also never read the Arc of the Scythe stories, but I read the main one of those. And then I want to read the Star Shards Chronicles, which I'm currently trying to find all the books for. So the first book in that series, called The Scorpion Shards, it says 6 outcasts from around the country find themselves drawn together by a mysterious force. A few of them, like Lord, suffer from horribly disfiguring physical torments that literally threaten to consume them. Others literally threaten to consume them. Others, like Dylan, must battle inner demons that can erupt at any minute with terrifying consequences. So I began reading the first book of this, and the main character, I believe, is Dylan. He deals with this urge to cause destruction, with this urge to cause trouble and stuff. The first scene is him tossing a piano from a very top of a building all the way down to the bottom part. He doesn't hurt anyone, but he has it, his body almost forces him to do it, and he has to. Seems really interesting. I'm currently still trying to buy all the books for it. So up next, from Neal Shusterman, I have the Dark Fusion series, which, no, I don't. I took that off my, again, these screenshots are kind of old. Sometimes I would put it before I read about it, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep it on there or not. But up next, actually, we have Dry, which it says, When the California drought escalates to catastrophic proportions, one teen is forced to make life and death decisions for her family in this harrowing story of survival. This seems very much like a book that is a possibility in the future. Droughts are very serious and, happen. And so there's that. And then also it's a Neal Shusterman book, so like, of course. And I'm pretty sure it's not just Neal Shusterman, it's also Jared Shusterman, which I believe is his son. They do a lot of co-authoring together, and I think that's very interesting and very cool. Then we have Challenger Deep, which says it focuses on the protagonist Caden, who struggles with hallucinations that subvert him from reality. As a result, Challenger Deep primarily deals with themes surrounding the transition from adolescence into young adulthood, mental illness, and yeah. So I am an adolescent transferring into young adulthood, so why wouldn't I want to read this book series? There's that. And then we have Bruiser, and it says Bruiser tells the story of a misunderstood teenage boy named Brewster Rollins, nicknamed Bruiser due to his above average size. His classmates constantly tease him while also being slightly afraid of him. When Brewster begins an unlikely relationship with Bronte, her twin brother Tennyson doesn't necessarily approve. Very weird names. Just gotta be frank with that. Those are some odd names, but whatever. Not my book. Not my book, not my characters. Next we have Downsiders, and again, we're still in the Neal Shusterman books. And this says, Talon lives in Downside that is underneath New York City. There's a strict code of secrecy among the Downsiders. However, when Talon accidentally meets a young woman named Lindsay, who is a topsider from above ground, the two worlds inevitably collide. For this, I want to know the context behind why we have a secret society under the ground. Is it dystopian? Is there problems with the upground where they're not supposed to be upground? What's going on here? And then we have Darkness Creeping, which is a set of like horror tales. It says, imagine being trapped forever in someone else's nightmare with no means of escape, or caught in one of the most terrifying roller coasters of all time, when suddenly the tracks ahead just disappear. Enter the world of Darkness Creeping, where hollowed ice skulls arrive in the mail and nothing is as it seems. Seems interesting. I have read one of his like thriller novels before. It was called Full Tilt, and it seemed interesting enough. So yeah. Okay, that is the end of all the Neal Shusterman books I want to read. And then we have When the Wind Blows, which is a James Patterson. Everybody knows James Patterson. It's one of his books. And I had to find like a bigger summary of this because the summary that I was seeing did not encapsulate what it was about enough, because my mom read it and then told me about it. And I was like, whoa, that seems super interesting. But then whenever I was like trying to look it up, I was like, this is boring. Who would make this their synopsis? Like, who would make that their summary for everybody to see? Nobody wants to read that. Anyway, so while grieving her husband's murder, a young Colorado veterinarian meets a troubled FBI agent and begins to uncover the world's most sinister secrets in this thriller from James Patterson. Franny O'Neill is a young, talented veterinarian living in Colorado. Plagued by the mysterious murder of her husband, Franny throws herself into work, but it is not long before another bizarre murder occurs, and Kit Harrison, a troubled and unconventional FBI agent, arrives on her doorstep. Late one night, near the woods of her animal hospital, Franny stumbles upon a strange, astonishing phenomenon that will change the course of her life forever: an 11-year-old girl named Max. With breathtaking energy, Max leads Franny and Kit to uncover one of the most diabolical, inhumane plots of modern science. Bold and compelling, When the Wind Blows is a story of suspense and passion. See? That sounds juicy. I want to read that, right? But that little first subsection I read is the only part it tells you whenever you first look it up. Dude, you're making it to where nobody wants to read your book. Yeah. That seems so interesting. And also just like the wording of that plot. Anyways, next up we have Forget Tomorrow, which is a book series I'm currently reading. There are 4 of them. It's about this dystopian world where some kids have started being born with, well, first off, there's this thing called your memory, where your future self sends a memory of what you're doing back to your past self, and that is how, in this society, that is how you do anything in life. Like, if your future self sends you a memory of you being a, like, famous doctor, you will become a doctor. Like, they will put you in the course to become a doctor. And if you don't have a future memory, you no longer are employed for those kind of things. They only trust these up-and-comers who have a memory. So our main character has a memory of murder. She murders her sister in her memory. And so, you know, she gets sent to a place where she, like, is gonna be, like, killed, I think, or something like that. But yeah, it's a lot more than that. That's just kind of like a basic, and it's really interesting. I would highly recommend. I think it's not a very well-known book, because a lot of my books, where I find them is I go to the local secondhand bookstore that is, like, attached to our public library. They, like, sell books that they take off of the shelves of the public library for only like $1 to $3, and I always get those. So that's where a lot of my books come from. So, and then we have The Forgetting, which is about a society where every 12 years they erase your memory. Up next we have the Asylum book series, and it says it follows 16-year-old Dan Crawford, who was chosen to attend a prestigious college proprietary summer program in New Hampshire. Once there, he befriends two other teens, Abby and Jordan, with whom he explores an old psychiatric hospital that has been repurposed into a student dormitory. I think they experience, like, a lot of paranormal activity, I believe. Up next, we have The House of Leaves, and it says it is a story about a young man who finds a manuscript about a family's documentary, the Navidson record, which details their experience with a strange house. The young man becomes all-encompassed with the text and story, which alters the course of his own life. And then my very last book in my TBR, or at least in the ones I've written down. I do have some other ones that I just kind of have forgotten to, like, put on here, but I'm just going to do the ones I have written down. And it's called Tender is the Flesh, and it says it portrays a society in which a virus has contaminated all animal meat. Because of the lack of animal flesh, cannibalism has become legal. Marcos, a human meat supplier, is conflicted by the snooze society and tortured by his own personal losses. This book reminds me a lot of Unwind, where if you've never read Unwind, it's a Neil Shusterman book. You your parents can deem whether you're gonna be important to society or not, and if you are deemed that you're not, you're gonna be taken apart and donated out to people at the age of, like, I think it's like 13 to 16. You can be donated. And our main character follows somebody who is about to be unwound. So yeah, there's that. So I hope y'all enjoyed. If you want more book content, let me know. If I should create a separate account, because all of y'all crochet people are like, this is not for me, get this off of my page, I can also do that. But I would also just like to kind of have, you know, one account where I can do whatever I feel like. But yeah, I'm not gonna edit this video any, because I kind of want to do a little bit more of, like, talky, sit-downy type of thing, instead of, like, the chop, this, then this, then this. I feel like I kind of like this more. But let me know. Love y'all. Bye.